The second lift we're going to talk about today is the clean. And if you love Olympic lifting like I do, it tends to be one of the bread and butters of your athletic programming because of the benefits that you can get, obviously, in total body power. There is something to be acknowledged, though, for us that like really competitive Olympic lifting. Cleaning for an athletic population is much different than competitively cleaning in competition because we're looking to increase certain things with athletic populations, and we are looking for more weight-bearing competitive numbers in competition, obviously. So when we train with athletes, it's going to be a little bit different than if we train competitively. You see most competitive lifters' feet don't even come up off the floor anymore, and if we're getting down into a full clean, that might be more appropriate for competition because people have the time to work on the mobility requirements, on the technique, because Olympic lifting is obviously very technical, and spend a little bit more time working on those things for the actual competition itself. For athletic populations, we want that full triple extension, and we might not really care that much about catching it that deep because we tend to land more in an upright base if we're landing after a jump in athletic competition. So things I'm probably not going to be quite as concerned about in athletic populations is necessarily how wide the feet are when they land. Now, we don't want them to be completely spread eagle right here, but if you go from a thinner jump stance out to a more athletic base, that's probably more appropriate for how you're going to play out in the real world. We'll actually train you to probably land in more of a wide athletic base, so you have more options for movement when you land. In competition, we're not even, again, letting those feet leave the ground really, so we're trying to keep those feet more planted into their original positions as you come down to land. So some considerations, obviously, for that. Now, when those feet go out, I obviously want those feet still straight ahead because I don't want to lose stability at the hip. If my foot turns out like this, I'm asking for a lot of pronation at the foot and a lot of collapsed arch, which is, again, going to put a lot of pressure on the inside of my knee, and we don't want that. We don't want to get hurt during training. Some other considerations for Olympic lifting are obviously the spinal movements. Now, Olympic lifting is so technical and hard because we have to spontaneously create a stable position to take impact load that the bar obviously is going to create as it's in limbo right there, and I'm dropping up under and catching it. You know, one of the reasons why Olympic lifting takes so long to learn is because of the timing elements that are involved in it. So I need to make sure that I'm training this individual to be able to receive the bar in a good position that's not causing me to move at local hinges instead of a global position. So you'll see a lot of competitive lifters with a lot of extension in their spine, which is completely fine as long as that spine, again, is moving as one unit and not taking that compression force on one facet joint locally. So as we go through this Olympic lift, we want to see her start in a position that's a little bit more upright. Another difference with Olympic lifting, or something that I see a lot with athletic populations as opposed to competitive positions, is we don't really know how to set up. A lot of people really precurse this movement with a simple RDL pattern, which is more of a hip hinge right here. Notice how far forward my chest is. It's over my toes. This is a little bit more like an actual jump when you go to take one. Especially in football, it's more like your athletic base, which is wide and chest forward like this because I want to have a lot of potential to accelerate, However, in Olympic lifting, I want to take away, first and foremost, the opportunity for me to kind of deviate from start to finish. So I want to land in the same position that I started, and B, I got to consider the bar path that I want to create as well. Because if I'm sitting here forward like this, I'm actually going to create a bar path that's probably more out and then pull myself towards it, as opposed to if I start a little bit more vertical torso here with a little bit of knee splay, I'm actually going to land in more of my starting position. So when you see guys, when they get down to the floor, they're not chest forward like a deadlift. They're actually sitting in there very vertical, more like a front squat. Again, it's just considerations because I'm spontaneously generating this position when I catch it. I want to make sure that I have a landmark for it neurologically. Again, neurons that wire together, fire together. I need to make sure I'm training this position right because I'm trying to have this translate into an athletic venue, and I want to make sure that movement is correct when that person gets out there. So, Maria, if you could please demonstrate a hang clean for us. Well, so again, some things you might see that athletes are doing incorrectly are, number one, getting their shoulder into a little bit more of a forward position right here. It probably will generally happen if you have someone hang clean with a lot of weight. If you see that happening, a dead giveaway is the cervical hyperextension right here, which you might have seen just a little bit in her lift right here. Again, this is something that's highly technical, and it's something that takes a long time to train. We are looking for extension of the spine a little bit right here, so the head should be up, but we don't want to see that shoulder drag forward. It's a little bit harder too when you're doing multiple reps of this to maintain that shoulder position as you come back down. So if you have athletes that really struggle with that or struggle with the setup, you can bring them inside the rack and have them start from a pin right here. Really where you're going to see that deviation is what we call the counter movement phase, when the bar is coming down right here and we're using that downward phase to create momentum for that upward phase coming up. So again, if athletes are struggling with that, you want to make sure you slow it down or slow down the counter movement phase, or take it away completely by taking them into the rack. You'll also be teaching the hip brush when you're inside the rack as well. We don't want that shoulder forward though, because as this bar's coming up, if I'm in this forward shoulder position and I'm internally rotated right here, I'm really exposing my shoulder. And if I rip through, I'm probably not going to wind up in a good position. That's why you'll see a lot of athletes finish like this right here, or this, in a weird torso position, because their shoulder's not in a position to help them create rigidity up top and that extension force to keep my spine more extended as I grab the bar. So we want to make sure that we're prioritizing shoulder position, that we've screened them for range of motion, and no one should be Olympic lifting if they did poorly on the FMS squat test. In fact, I would say you'd have to score a 3 to really get to Olympic lift because of the ankle range of motion problems. Whenever I'm catching a bar right here, I need a more vertical torso. I need way more ankle range of motion than if the bar is on my back because the load is more forward right here, and I need to be able to be upright to receive it. So make sure we're screening and making sure people have range of motion. Make sure that we're testing for motor control. Make sure that we can lay into these good positions and progress obviously appropriately as your athletes are moving through their off season. So thank you for listening and have a great day.